It was 1972, and my entire focus was devoted to music. And I longed to develop and improve the percentages of times I felt my playing was on point and things were flowing. The so-called, good nights. And the main reason that I entertained that idea was due to an experience I had in Seattle with the maestro of the bass, Buster Williams, who was a member of Humanities, my avant-garde space band that depended so much on the intuition and empathy of the musicians, where a lot was left up to the moment and what I believed at the time, chance. Well, one Thursday evening after our gig, a fan invited us to several parties. And since we were all young guys and wanted to have fun, we all went out and painted the town red and every other color in the crayon box. We eventually hauled ourselves slowly back to the hotel and had at the most 2 hours of sleep. At the club, no one felt like playing. But it was a Friday night, and the place was jam-packed. So we dragged ourselves onto the stage, and although we had some energy, it wasn't nearly enough. My initial thought was that I was going to pass the buck since I didn't have it in me to set the pace. So I called an uncharacteristic first tune called Toys. That begins with a solo bass intro. Now, the acoustic bass is the softest instrument in the band. And it was an odd choice to open up the night with this tune, Toys. Buster started improvising, and I couldn't believe my ears. Previously unheard of sounds were coming out of his instrument. He also employed some new techniques that looked physically impossible. Check this out. His hand was moving up the bass. 2 fingers were trilling 2 different strings. His pinky was sliding up the 3rd string. And his, sliding up the third string, right? And the thumb was sliding down the 4th string, right? The bass neck was on his shoulder. All 5 fingers were on the fingerboard, right? And he's got this trilling going on. Anyway, after hearing and seeing him perform this feat once, I was amazed. And then he looked up the neck of the bass, and he did it again. The audience went crazy, and all eyes and ears were concentrated on his every fantastic move. Then I felt myself waking up. The band finally came in to play the melody, and I could tell by the way the band hit that they woke up too. We wound up playing this magical, spiritual set that felt like an adventure, a journey going in several directions. At the end of the show, people rushed up to the stage, many of them in tears. And for the first time, I heard the crowd say that they hadn't merely heard the music, they experienced it. After the show, I took Buster back to the dressing room and asked him about this new philosophy or something that I heard he was exploring. And if you could make him play the bass like that, I wanted to know what it was. Actually, his eyes lit up, and he told me he'd been chanting for a way to tell me about it. And at that moment, it occurred to me that the only real way he could reach me was through the music. If whatever he was chanting produced that bridge to reach me, I was even more open to hearing what he had to say. He explained that he'd been practicing Buddhism and that he'd been chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. what's Buddhism about? What's this practice of Buddhism? Many questions were forming in the back of my mind. And my questions were answered with straightforward, practical answers that made straightforward, logical sense. And curiously, each time I'd ask a question, his answer would satisfy 4 or 5 others I was waiting to ask. My interest was piqued because aside from the Buddhist clarity, there was optimism, trust, and an innate respect for all human beings. The more I listened, the more I hoped this was what I was looking for and that it would work for me. Buster had only been practicing about 3 weeks at the time.